So we are going to record this. I just hit the record button. So before we get too far in here, we're going to record. And I want to, like I said, give an opportunity for all of us to embrace online meetings. This could be the new normal. This is, at least it's going to increase, I think, the importance of meeting, whether it's in a Toastmasters meeting or whether it's just with friends. This is going to open up, I think, a lot of doors for people in terms of their flexibility to communicate. So I'm really excited for this meeting, and I'm hoping that we have a lot of participation. And before we go too far, I want to launch a poll here. So for all those of you who are on the bridge, you should be getting a poll on your screen. And I would really like to have you just hit the radio button for which platform or which online video software is your club using now. We've got Zoom, we've got GoToMeeting, we've got WebEx. Those are the three more popular ones. But if you're using another one, say other. If you don't have any that you're using, hopefully we can convince you to use one of the more popular ones that we have here. And we'll go over a little bit more what District 40 is using, if you haven't already heard, in a little bit. So we're going to let this poll go here for a little bit. We've got about 57, 60% already. So if you haven't voted, go ahead and hit your radio buttons there. Looks like most of the people, 18 out of 31, are Zoom. I was kind of surprised, none with GoToMeeting yet. WebEx, that's a good one. For those of you who are in corporate clubs, I wouldn't be surprised if you have something else and you're using a corporate account to do your online meetings. So let's kind of winding down here. Let's take another 10, 15 seconds. So if you haven't voted, go ahead and vote. I'm glad people are using the chat window. We'll have people monitor the chat. Jean Bailey and Lavinia Boyer, I believe, are on to help provide a little bit of communication or continuity in the chat box. So hopefully Jean and Lavinia, you guys are in the background answering some questions. I'll be there too. But I'm going to go ahead and close this. Looks like we've got a vast majority using Zoom. That's great. I wouldn't say vast, but a simple majority. WebEx, other, and none. So like I said, if those of you who are using none, I hope that you are inspired by some of the tools that we are using. Zoom is what we do use within District 40 at this time, and we'll go over some more details about that. So I'm going to close this poll here. Thank you for voting. And I'm going to hand it over to John, and John will go into a little bit of a reason of why we want to use online meetings with our Toastmasters meetings. So John, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you very much, Scott. And would if you just wave your hand to make sure that I can hear you or you can hear me.
Yep.
Great. So why online meetings for Toastmasters? We have been at some level, lots of clubs have been looking at online meetings for lots of reasons. People travel. People around the world can be quite interesting and add an extra special element to club meetings. For me, one of the skills is just to be a good presenter with a cam, with a mic, located at home. And I've been working on this for a long while. It was not something that I just first started doing because of coronavirus. It's just, here we are at this particular time. And so what I'll try to accomplish in these next few minutes is not so much a how do you do everything, but why to do it. So earlier this week, my club had another online meeting. This is about our 5th in a row. We meet weekly. And we had one member come back. He'd been away until now. And this was what he had to say. You see it on screen. I was apprehensive, but then he was immediately impressed with the seamlessness and the continuity, which kind of sounds like a first-time guest at Toastmasters meetings for the first time. That's what they're impressed with. So this can be recreated in the video realm. It's not that hard. We have a possible bright spot here in this current shared challenge, so that leaders in our organizations, our bosses, may be rethinking strategies about meetings. And really, if we can build our skills, if we can show that we can have even better meetings online, then you know, I can envision a world that has been changed, in which more people will develop that skill set to work with online meetings and not be too apprehensive about it, like my fellow Toastmaster was. I'm just noticing that there's a plethora of good help that's out there. Looking today at Steve Dotto's YouTube about Zoom. It is very up to date. Zoom seems to be changing on a daily basis right now because they're really focused on being a good offering. And one of the things impressive about Zoom for a very long time is that it takes less bandwidth. Maybe some of the competitors have been working on this too, but what was really striking about Zoom early on was that people were getting a good video stream, even if they didn't have the greatest of connections. So, and I will say, Zoom for club meetings is one thing. Zoom for contests is kind of an advanced beast. So if you're thinking about contests, it's going to be great to think about Zoom first at the meeting level and just get yourself accustomed to the muscle memory that it takes to mute and unmute and share your screen and do it without a lot of hemming and hawing. But yeah, there's so much help out there. So if you've got a particular question, you probably don't even need me or another Toastmaster. There's a lot of help that's out there right now. So we want to help leaders in the workplace rethink. If Toastmasters can help us become familiar with better practices for Zoom meetings, sorry about that, and raise standards regarding meetings, we can avoid the waste of lots of time and money just with unproductive meetings. So we want to practice our online meeting skills. What better place to do it than with our friendly neighborhood fellow Toastmasters or those that come to us from around the world, willing to work with our schedules. I came across this recently. 5 key questions when you go into a meeting: what to expect, how to make it productive, what is my mission, well, and why am I here? I think we're all here tonight to make a difference somehow in light of everything that's going on. Who's the customer? Well, in this case, it may be a new version of ourselves that's adjusted to a newer world. What do we consider valuable? I'll give that to you to think about. It's not about what I consider in my old self valuable, but what going forward will be valuable. What's our goal? Well, we want to know this in vivid detail. And vivid detail is only possible if we get in there regarding the possibilities of video conferencing, only if we get in there and do this on some kind of basis, weekly or bi-weekly with our clubs. etc. And what's my plan? Here, I think of the power of one-to-one communication, working with a mentor, articulating a plan. So you know what your next step is. I don't know what the next step is for the many people, the 57 of us that are currently on the in this meeting. But I know, talking with each one-to-one, there would be a next step, a next step, a next step. So we want to show the world that meetings don't have to be meetings are not going to go away. And with Toastmasters, people have got their meetings in good hands. Mr. Meeting Host.
Thank you, John. I appreciate you giving us a view of why Toastmasters. And you know what? I thought you guys did an amazing job at the Division E contest. John was one of the Toastmasters, the hosts of the Division E speech contest that happened over the weekend. And I thought that the way that it was done was it was great. I mean, you can still do a structured Toastmasters meeting virtually online. I mean, you can make it look almost like and feel like a meeting that you're doing face to face. So that's a great way for us to realize that we can have a meeting that looks and feels exactly like the Toastmasters meeting in person by doing it online here. So I thought that the speech contest went really, really well. And I know we did a lot of planning for that. And I know we're gearing up for other contests as well in Cincinnati and also in Columbus and maybe even in Dayton and in Southeast Ohio and in West Virginia. So we're really looking forward to that next step. Now I want to give the floor to Michael Pope. Michael's going to take us through a little bit of technical overview of what it's like to get on an online meeting. And so he might talk about an application here, but I'll give it to you, Michael. We're going to talk about Zoom a little bit.
All right. Thank you, Scott, fellow Toastmasters. All right. Hope everybody can see. Scott, can you see my screen okay?
Yes, the basics of online meetings. Yep.
All right, perfect. Well, welcome everyone. I'm extremely excited about online meetings. Since we started launching online meetings, I've attended meetings in Moscow, London, Taiwan, the West Coast in California, down south in Georgia, down south in Memphis, Tennessee, and a couple other places that I can't remember right now, but I've been having fun. And a big benefit is I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of Toastmasters from all around the world, and now I'm connected with them on social media as well. And the cool thing about it is they run their meetings the same way we run our meetings in District 40. They have fun, they're encouraging, their arms are wide open, welcoming guests into their meeting. It's a great environment. So today I'm going to talk to you about the basics of online Zoom meetings. I know that from the poll, some of you are using WebEx, some of you are using Microsoft Teams and other software. I believe you can utilize some of the same things that I'm going to talk about for those platforms as well. So let's get started here. So one of the first things you want to do is actually go ahead and download the Zoom client on whatever device you're using, whether it's a mobile device or whether it's your PC, etc. And they have a few different versions. They have one that works for your computer, whether it's a Mac or Windows-based PC. They also have one for Android as well as iPhones. And you have one for your browser as well, because some people can't necessarily install software, so they have to run it from the browser. So they have lots of options available for you. And what we recommend is you go ahead and create a free Zoom account if you don't already have an account. That way you can test it out. You can actually get used to the environment of utilizing Zoom. And you may want to use it for your own meetings. Let's say you're a mentor and you want to mentor somebody. You can use Zoom to mentor somebody right now with everything going on. And so you can do that. So with the free account, you get up to 40 minutes of free access if you have 3 or more participants. You can host up to 100 participants. But you can also have unlimited one-on-one meetings as well with the free Zoom account. So I've seen it where some meetings, some clubs have been using the free account and they've been just having condensed meetings. Then they will take a break and then they'll start a new Zoom meeting and everybody would join back on. So that's one way to get around the cost thing if your club can't afford it. However, as I believe Scott may have mentioned before, the district has provided some Zoom accounts for your divisions. And so we'll talk more about that a little bit later. One very important thing about Zoom is that they're constantly updating the software. And John hinted at this earlier. They're constantly making new updates to the software. So one of the things you want to do is get in the habit of coming into your Zoom client and checking for updates. Zoom software will also remind you of updates, but if they don't, before you use it, especially if you're the host, make sure you're checking for updates because they're constantly updating the security features. They actually had an update last night for Zoom. So they're on top of it. Right now, a lot of people, they have a lot of eyes on the Zoom corporation. So they're having to make sure that they keep their security top notch. So definitely make sure that your client is up to date. Next, so let's talk about the Zoom client a little bit. Once you've set up your account and you've logged in, a little dialog like this is gonna pop up when you start Zoom. You can see I've got my profile picture up here. You can create a banner if you want as well. So you have 4 main options here. New meeting. So a new meeting, this is more of an impromptu meeting. Let's say that you and I have been corresponding back and forth via email and we say, hey, let's go ahead and meet. I can just click the new meeting button and I'll start a new meeting and we can meet over Zoom. Very simple. You can also schedule meetings. So for your recurring meetings, or for your club meetings, or for a future meeting, you can go ahead and schedule that. And I'll talk more about that as well. Join. Majority of the members here, you won't be creating meetings, you'll just be joining meetings. So this is how you will come and you just click join, and I'm going to talk more about that as well. So share screen. If you've seen anything about Zoom on the news or in Google, you'll hear that there's been a lot of attacks on Zoom, and they call it Zoom bombing. The #1 way that people have been attacking Zoom is through this share screen function. You can actually share screen, click on that share screen without actually joining the meeting. They've got it set up where if I know the meeting ID and the password, or just the meeting ID if they don't have a password on it, I can actually share something in that screen if it's enabled. So that's what's been happening to a lot of people, a lot of schools as well. They've had people just randomly putting in that random 9-digit number and finding active meetings and sharing things. So that's a high security risk. We'll talk about how to mitigate that a little bit later. So that's your client overview. So let's talk about joining a meeting. So to join a meeting is very simple. There's a couple different options. One is you may receive a meeting invitation via email. If that's the case, you simply click on that Zoom ID. It may look like this, where zoom.us / and some meeting number, or now they've been embedding the password into it, so it may be a longer string with Zoom that actually has a password embedded inside it. But you simply click that and launch Zoom. As I mentioned before, you can actually use your client console. You can type in the ID. You can type in your name. You want to make sure you have a clear name, and then you can join the meeting. You can also join by just putting the URL in your web browser. Whatever web browser you're using, you can do that, and it's going to automatically ask you if you want to launch the software. So lots of different options to join a meeting. So let's talk about scheduling a meeting. So scheduling a meeting for your event. So there's a few different ways you can schedule meetings. You may have one-time meetings. You may have recurring meetings that are anytime based, meaning that we have a status meeting with our team or with our club officers, but we may meet anytime. So we don't necessarily set a certain date and time. We just set it up where anytime we want to get a meeting started, we can start that meeting. And everybody knows the ID. We say, hey, let's meet. They know the ID and the password, and they can start it up. You can also have time-based recurring meetings. So for a lot of my clubs, I manage the online meetings for 2 clubs right now, Love and Speakeasy and Anthem Express. We do recurring meetings that are time-based. So that way I have a start and an end time blocked out for those meetings, and they're set to recur. So that way people can actually add that recurrence to their calendar and receive reminders about the meetings as well. So let's talk about scheduling a meeting from the client. So this example here shows 2 different ways of scheduling a meeting. I'll just let you take a look at that. The fields are pretty basic, very self-explanatory. The only difference between these 2 here is one of these is set for see this one here on the left, it has a date and a time for the meeting. The other one that's on the right, I clicked recurring meeting, and so they removed the time function. So this allows you to create that anytime recurring meeting. So this meeting can be started anytime. There's no time or date associated with it at all. One of Zoom's security features now is they recommend, and by default, they recommend that all meetings have passwords associated with them. And then there's a few different fields that you can select depending on what you want, whether you want the host video to always be on or not. You can make those decisions. So down here at the bottom, I've got a little warning sign here. So the warning sign here is, and this says enable join before host. And that's one of those things that you may want to have it and you may not want to have it. And so I'm actually going to talk about that I'm going to talk about that in a couple slides. So just remember about that enable join before host. Another way to schedule a meeting is through the website. So you can go to the zoom.us, log in on their website, and you can actually go into meetings here, and there's a button that says schedule new meeting, and you can schedule a meeting directly from the website. And in here, you'd actually be creating, if you create a recurring meeting, it's going to give you the option of setting the meeting date, the meeting time, and the frequency of that recurrence, whether it's a weekly meeting, or if it's a meeting where you do monthly, or you get the idea. So it's just a recurring meeting. So those are 3 different ways of scheduling meetings. So let's talk about the option, the join before a host, and when should you use it. Okay. So if you have enable join before a host on, so if it's disabled, we recommend that you disable join before a host if you're the host and you don't want others to join the meeting before you. So for example, in today's meeting, the way it was set up, Scott had enabled waiting room set. So anyone that came to the meeting, we automatically went to a waiting room first, and he has the ability to admit people into this meeting. But also, no one could join the meeting before Scott did because he was the host of this meeting. Okay, so when would you want to enable that feature? So enable join before a host if you're allowing someone else to reclaim the host role in your absence. So for example, within District 40, we purchased Zoom accounts for all of the division directors. So 9 Zoom accounts for the division directors. Those division directors have the ability to allow their clubs within their division to utilize their Zoom account. However, they're not going to give you the credentials for that Zoom account. So in that case, your division director may set up a meeting, say, hey, your meeting meets on Tuesdays. I've got your meeting set up. Here's your meeting ID. Here's your meeting password. And that division director will share their host key, which is a unique key that allows an individual to reclaim the host role. So if that's the case, if the division director is doing that, then they have to enable join before a host because someone has to be in the meeting to be able to reclaim it. Because if you have it disabled, then unless the host joins, no one can actually start that meeting and reclaim it. So here's the risk there. The risk, if we do this approach, That means that anyone with the link can join before you. So if you are going to be the co-host or the person that's going to assume the host role, you want to make sure you get to that meeting early, so that way you're prepared to just handle your meeting, to take care of it properly. Okay? Hopefully that's clear. So another option you have is being able to invite people. So you've got a couple different options here. So from within the website, there's a link that says copy the invitation. So you can always copy it and you can put it in the email and email it out to people. You can also copy just the URL and send it to people. And if you're looking to start meeting, there's a few different options. So within the client, there's going to be an option that just says start meeting. So you can go to your list of meetings and just click start. So that's what Scott did for this meeting today. Okay. Let's talk about actually using Zoom from a user perspective here. So this came from there's a 4-page PDF from District 52 where they talk about utilizing Zoom. So this actually came from them. So if you're the person that's going to be the host of that meeting, whether it's the virtual sergeant at arms, or maybe it's the president or whoever's doing this for your club, they would click start meeting. And so they will open up the meeting like they normally would any regular meeting. So steps 3 and step 4 here shows you the 2 different views that are available to you. One is what they call gallery view, where you can see everybody up to 49 people at one time. The 4th way is active speaker view. So you have those options in place. Okay. So let's talk about some timer options. So this is the big thing. So you got a couple different options for the timer. One is the timer can use traditional cards. You can hold up, I don't have any colors in front of me, but let's say I did, hold up something. You can't see this in my virtual background, but I could hold up a timing card if I was a timer. Another option is you can change your virtual background. So that's an option. Oops, let me go back. So this right here shows you how you would change your virtual background. And essentially what you do is you go down, if you're on the client, if you're on the PC or a computer, down the lower left-hand corner where you see the video, if you click on the little up arrow, you should see something called, I believe it's virtual background. And that's where you change your virtual background. And so like today, Lisa's our timer, and so she's changing the timing lights as I hit the right times. Okay. So let's talk about security when it comes to sharing. Security is very important in Zoom. So the Zoom bombing. So that's one of the top security risks, and the recommendation is that you set it where only hosts and co-hosts can share their screen. And you can control these settings during the meeting as well. So there's a couple different ways you can control these settings. If you're a host, down at the bottom, next to sharing, you see a little dialogue like this, where you see one participant can share at a time or multiple participants can share simultaneously. But you also have advanced sharing options. So under advanced sharing options, this is really the big thing here where it says who can share. And I normally put it as only hosts. And if I need to give somebody else the ability, like today, I'm a co-host. So Scott made John and I co-host so that way we could share our presentations. But we don't have to worry about anybody else sharing something into this meeting that's inappropriate. So that's why you want to control those settings. Audio security is very important as well. So as the host, you should know how and be prepared to mute an individual or the entire meeting if people are getting out of hand or they're just making noise, especially in like a contest or a case where you've got a speaker and you don't want that speaker to be interrupted. So they have controls where if I'm looking at the participant list, I can mute all, I can unmute all, or I can come down here and I can say, I want to mute participants upon entry. So when they enter the meeting room, I want them automatically to be muted and they have to unmute themselves. I can also decide, so this would be helpful in a contest, I can decide whether I want to allow participants to unmute themselves or not. So in a contest, I would make it where participants couldn't unmute themselves, where I had to unmute them as the host or co-host. Okay, you can also allow or disallow participants to rename themselves. That's your choice. Okay. And there's also an option here at the bottom called lock meeting. So for certain events, you may, let's say I'm expecting 10 people, all 10 people have shown up. I may go ahead and lock that meeting. That means that no one can enter the meeting. Even if they have the password, they can't get into the meeting because it has been locked. So that's what the purpose of the lock is. Now, as of last night, Zoom had a major update where they added a new security icon at the bottom of our screens. So the security icon in the meeting controls allows the host or co-host of a meeting to enable or disable options during a meeting to secure the meeting and minimize disruption during the meeting. And so these features used to exist, but used to be all over the place. Zoom has put them in one place for the co-host. It makes it really easy. So I can come here and I can quickly lock the meeting. I can enable the waiting room or I can disable it. So at the beginning of this meeting, Scott had the waiting room enabled, but he could easily come here and say, I'll let anybody in now. He can disable it. Also, from here, I can control the participant screen, whether participants can share or not, or whether it's just hosts. I can also disable the chat. So a lot of times during online contests, we'll disable the chat so that you can only chat with hosts, because we don't want the chat popping up in the middle of a speaker and potentially distracting the speaker. Okay. So let's talk about a couple of advanced things. So one advanced things that I actually really enjoy about Zoom is that you can actually create a registration page for your participants. So for my Anthem Express Club, I set it up where we have a registration page. So anybody that has our URL, our registration URL, they want to come to our site, they have to register first. So they're putting in their name, their email address. I've got a custom question of, are you in Toastmasters? They fill that out. And what's going to happen is they're going to receive an email back giving them, if I allow it, giving them the Zoom URL so they can get connected to the meeting, giving them the ability to add it to their calendar for a reminder, etc. I mean, it works out really well. And what you do is when you're setting up the meeting, when you're setting the schedule, there's a checkbox that says registration. If you click required, this is where you have a couple different options here. I can say attendees register once, they can attend all occurrences of the meetings. So for our club meeting, this is what we have checked, because if they attend once, I'm going to let them continue to attend the meetings. I don't want to have to keep allowing them for each meeting if they're a member. But you can also make it where they need to register for each occurrence of the meeting as well. So the registration works out really well. And you can run registration reports on people. And for us, we've had guests visit our meeting we had somebody from Sweden give a speech at our meeting not too long ago. Well, she went through the registration page, so I had her information, so that way I could actually email her back. I didn't have to collect that information afterwards. She already filled that information out for us. So it works out really well. Let's see. Polling. You all experienced an example of polling at the beginning of this meeting when Scott sent out the polling. Polls are really easy to set up. So as the host, if you have polling enabled in your meeting, during the meeting, so let's say you have a table topics, your club does the best table topic speaker or the best evaluator or whatever your poll your club needs. During the meeting, I can create a poll on the fly, and then when it's time, I can launch that poll and have my participants answer the poll. Now, one thing to note, the only non-participants can answer a poll. So when Scott did his poll earlier, because I'm a co-host, I didn't have the ability to answer the poll. I could just look at it. Okay. And so that's really all I have, but I'll tell you, the best way to really understand Zoom is to go ahead and set up that free account and just play around with it. You can set up a meeting with just yourself and play around with the features. That's what I've been doing to learn it better. But thank you for your time, and I'll turn it back over to you, Scott.
Thank you, Michael. Great job. We got a little extra there. So we got some of the basics and we got a little bit of advanced tips. Actually, we just had somebody asked about polling and how could how could we do polling in this? So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, I think, right now. And what we're going to do, I want to give an opportunity for people to, before we get into the Q&A, I really want to give an opportunity for maybe a couple of people, since we're a little bit short on time. I want to give an opportunity for 2 people to kind of give their experience about what it's meant to be in an online meeting and what kind of surprises. Do we have anybody that would like to share for 1 to 2 minutes? This is table topics. So who would like to share?
I'll share. This is Jill
Okay.
Allen, Park
Thank you,
42.
Jill.
And you guys can see my hands all on here.
Yes.
We experienced that with a meeting last week where one of our participants had a phone, her iPhone. So each time she was using the iPhone, she was putting her hand up like this. So it was a little distracting, but at least it got us through the meeting. We had a great time on the meeting. It went very smoothly. And one thing that each of us did was we went up to our name, 3 little dots, and we renamed ourselves. So it would be Jill Allen, Toastmaster, Brian Woodward, General Evaluator. So that helped out as well. It couldn't have gone any smoother. It was really good. And one little tip is to always make sure that you have, that you're facing the light so that you're not dark and that everyone can see you. So rather than be backlit, it's better to have it facing. So it worked well. We're going to do it. And it was in a different club. We're doing it in our club in 2 weeks.
Very cool. Thank you so much, Jill. I really like the renaming of your roles. Like for instance, knowing who's the Toastmaster, who's the General Evaluator, who's the timer, and the participants. And you can do that, I think, by just mousing over your name. And then I believe there's a way that you can rename yourself. So it's really important for people to know who you are, full name preferably, and not some cryptic name, because we don't know who you are. So try to be transparent, and I appreciate your transparency, Jill. Anybody else wants to share?
Scott, I'll do it. My name's Keith Allen.
Thank you, Keith.
I'll say from a TDY perspective, if somebody's on temporary duty for the military, whereas before they wouldn't have been able to go to the meeting, they were able to go to the meeting yesterday. No different than if you're in a conference someplace else. Now, obviously, people are going to travel less now based on the coronavirus, but
Yeah.
I've got some people that were in Germany, somebody else that's in Scott Air Force Base, whereas they wouldn't be able to go to the meeting, but they're able to go to the meeting now because of the fact that it's online. So I think that's a plus. I've done 4 of them. Each one gets a little bit better. With some of the people that are not as good with tech stuff, then I've done some one-on-one training with them, and then they got better for the second meeting. So I think just make it where you're helpful to people, then they'll find out this is going to be good, because if you don't have online meetings, I think you're going to lose a lot of Toastmasters. And this way you'll get some people, whereas if somebody might have moved, they can sit there and join back online. Just like Mike mentioned, the different countries that he's been on meetings with for the last month, that I'm looking at ones where I was at in Las Vegas and Germany and Virginia about attending their meetings, even though I'm here in Ohio. But the key is to make it where you share some different tips that work out well, and telling people not to get too close to the camera, helping some people get prepared for the contest where they need to step back further away so you're able to sit there and see gestures and movements. Whereas if they're sitting at a desk or sitting on a recliner, you're not going to be able to sit there and see that. And make it where they look on the camera beforehand. And just like Jill mentioned about the lighting, if you have natural lighting that comes from a window, that's going to be better compared to having lighting where you got some light, it's like a flash or something that's shining on them. They don't know that. And make sure that they check their background, and then they can change it. But a couple people the other day in a contest, they did a virtual background, but then all of a sudden they were coming up like blue. It looked like they were like in space.
Thank you so much. You know, I really appreciated the comment about, you know, getting people back into Toastmasters or keeping them there. You know, I'm not going to name any names, Cal, who's down in Florida right now, and I'm trying to get him back to my club here in Ohio. So just a little dig there at Cal. So join us, man, join us. But anyways, I appreciate that. And you know what? We're as Toastmasters, we're trying to solve problems. You know, we have a great opportunity now in a very difficult situation to help solve people's problems. And you know what? I know I don't like sitting home by myself, or, you know, I love my wife, but, you know, sometimes I need community like you guys. I want to talk to you guys sometime. So, you know what? You know, like I said, I love my wife, but I need community. And this is a great opportunity to do community at Toastmasters meetings without being face to face. So, you know, who knows how long we're going to be in this situation? We could be in it for another couple of weeks, could be another month or two, but let's embrace it, you know, and let's try to resolve those issues that we have. Thank you for that. One more, let's have one more person. Anybody want to share?
I'll say something if I may.
All right, Cal.
Well, you know, I'm down here in Florida. Normally, at this time, I'm back in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
But because of all that's going on, I think the safe thing to do is stay put here until this is all over and then make a decision.
Yep.
So it's great that it's given me the opportunity to see you guys and meet. And I meet, I've got 2 meetings tomorrow.
That's great.
Midday, a meeting online at noon, and then COAT, Central Ohio Advanced Toastmasters, meeting tomorrow night. So it's a great opportunity for me.
Awesome.
I won't say I'm stuck down here, but I'm still down here.
That's great, Cal. Thanks for chiming in, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow night. All right, let's go ahead, and I want to get to some Q&A here because there were a few questions. I think John and some other people were answering questions online for people, and I appreciate that. I don't know if this is going to help me. I was going to try to share my screen here, but I don't know if I can actually do it.
I think we're caught up on the chat questions.
Oh, we all chatted up.
As far as I know.
Did somebody answer the question about the green, yellow, red templates being available from Toastmasters International?
Yes.
Okay. So it sounds like we can find that, and it looks like the poll. Somebody asked about setting up a poll, and Michael, you kind of went into that, and I'm not sure if I can share that. So I'm sharing.
You want to show it again?
You can see.
I would suggest it takes a lot of time for something
Yeah.
that's not going to be used a whole lot.
So in the polling thing up there, which was a great application, Michael said, you know, if for those clubs who are doing, you know, the best speaker, best evaluator, best table topics, you can create those polls and share those with your members, and then you can vote there.
Yeah, the issue there is you might wind up with ties.
So if you got a tie, make sure that you got a tiebreaker. So maybe it's a co-host, like Michael said, they couldn't actually be voting on the poll. So maybe one of your hosts or somebody of that nature is set up as a designated tiebreaker.
And I'm not sure if polling works on mobile devices either, because I haven't tested that.
Okay.
This is Terry. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Terry.
Carrie,
Oh, Carrie. I'm sorry, Carrie Douglas. Go ahead.
new to this. How do I do chat?
So if you want to do chat I'm not sure if
See
you
the
can
little screen at the bottom, but I don't know how to go into it. Hi, Karen.
Carrie,
How
what
to
type of
go
device are you
into
on
it
right
and
now?
send the messages to everybody.
So Carrie, are you on your phone, your mobile device?
I'm on my computer, my personal computer.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So down at the bottom, you should see the word chat.
Yes,
Okay, so just click on that.
got that part.
You see down at the bottom where there's a 2, where it says type message here?
Yes.
Okay, so in that 2 right above it, you want to select either everyone or a specific person that you want to chat with.
Well, Karen is already there, so I'll leave her name there.
Okay, and then just type hi and press enter.
Okay, hi, and then enter. Did it come up?
Let's
Did
see.
she get it, or did I hit something else?
I didn't see it, Carrie.
Okay, let me
Not
try
yet.
it again. Oh, maybe I didn't have my cursor down there. That's
Yeah.
why.
Yep, I got it.
You got it. So if I want to send a message, I either put everyone or I put a specific person's name.
That's
And
correct.
then hit the enter button.
Yes.
correct.
Oh, that's very easy. Thank you.
You're welcome. We're glad that you asked.
Yeah, in
Thank you
fact,
for asking.
you can click on one of those blue names above if you go to
Right.
the mouse, and that'll select that particular name right there for you. So that's a shortcut.
Yeah,
Just
you
by
can do
clicking one of the
so up
names
here. Yeah, so you can chat with them up there. So if you can look at them, you can look at them online. You can also hit that ... button, and it'll bring up an extra. You can chat with them specifically.
The ... button.
Yeah. So if you, well, if you're, I don't know if you can see my screen or not, Carrie, but
We
Yeah.
can't see it.
I
You
see
can't?
it. I
Well,
see
we
your
we can't see your Zoom controls though.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So over somebody's photo or somebody's video, if you move your cursor, your mouse cursor up into that box where that person is,
Okay.
there's a little blue button that has 3 dots in it, and you would
Okay.
click on that, and then it'll bring up another menu, and you would just move your cursor down over which one you want to do, and there's one of the selections is chat.
Oh,
And you can
okay.
also
So I'll have to
that
learn
way
how to
too.
do that one.
Mhm.
I'm starting with the easy one first.
That's
That
all
sounds,
right.
that sounds great.
We
Oh,
appreciate
Thank
you
you.
asking.
Thank you.
a great big tip for those of us that have silver hair or no hair or have been at this for, well, you need to use your mouse and just try to mouse over some things too, because you won't see the controls until you move the mouse. Moving the mouse is a way to reveal some things.
Yes.
And the safe place to do that is either here or in your club meetings, or get together with a willing participant here. And, 2 people can just meet and practice the controls. It's almost like, a new sport. You'd have to learn some reflexes, just easy reflexes, but you learn them one at a time. And one way to kind of get yourself out when you're stuck is just to use your mouse and see what you can uncover. That's what the younger folks know, and
Absolutely.
it helps in a lot of ways. So thank you.
While I'm on that part of it where you could click on the mouse over and then mouse over a person and then that 3 dots button, you can also make somebody a host or a co-host using that same feature. So I think somebody asked about that earlier, and you can make somebody, like I made Michael a co-host and I made John a co-host. I moused over them and then selected make co-host.
That only works when you're the host, though.
That's correct. So you have to be a host to be able to do that.
So you'd have to leave this meeting, join a meeting where you're the host, and then you'll have that control. But only Scott sees that here right now.
That's correct.
Yeah.
All right. I think the only other question that I saw was, did we answer the question about speech contests? So there was a question in there about speech contests. Maybe John or somebody, or Michael, you can answer this question. Somebody asked a question for the contest. Do you need a full body view, or does it only matter from the waist up? What do you recommend?
We'll let Gene answer that one probably.
Gene?
That's rules.
I think we had in the Division E contest, we had a different.
Go ahead, Gene. Sorry. Restart. Gene. I keep muting and unmuting.
Oh.
We keep trying to help Gene unmute. We like him muted though.
Oh, that's fine.
There we go.
Sign language. But there is a guide for speech contests, and there has been advice in terms of half body, and but we at the Division E contests used the full body, and there is a guide that went out to the entire district in which full body is recommended by TI with stipulations as well.
Okay. So you said half body, is that correct?
Yes.
Basically?
Well, we're talking in terms of the speech contest. There are some specific guides, recommendations from TI. I think we sent those out earlier, in which this is the actual video that would go to the region or the region contest, and that calls for a full body, I do believe. And I'll double check that. I'll double check.
There
I
was
have
a
a comment on that, if it's okay.
Sure.
We tried it yesterday at our meeting, going full body versus the half body and the face, and people just looked really small when they used the full body as opposed to the half body or the face. And it was really distracting because they looked so small.
So Sue, did you spotlight the speaker when they were speaking in full body?
Correct, we did.
I got one thing to add for that. I had a meeting today and I had two people that spoke, and I had it where they were further back from the camera and it worked out well. But one person was talking about shoes, another one's talking about running the pantyhose. But then if you can only see down to their knees, you're not going to be able to sit there and see that. But it worked out good. The key is to make it where you're further away from the camera.
I'm just thinking as a practical matter, think about if you watch YouTube personalities, there's almost no YouTube personalities that are doing full body. It's
Right.
not, you know, it's kind of a Tinkerbell effect that they're so small in the screen.
Well, we'll secure TI's official recommendation on that and let everyone know.
I can see it at the district level that the standard might be the entire head to toe.
Hi, Jane. For the Columbus divisions, we've been practicing only half bodies. And some of the challenges is that depending on where people live and their space, sometimes they don't even have the space to get a camera shot that takes their full body. And then you still have the camera quality where some people try to do a full shot, but because they don't have a certain type of camera or the quality of the camera, it makes it very hard to see them doing their speech. So all of our contestants have been practicing half body.
And thank you, Lavinia. Thank you.
Somebody had a question about chat. Does the host allow chat amongst participants? And I think the answer is no. It's free reign. Whoever wants to use chat, you can use chat freely. The host does not restrict any type of chat communications.
But the host can, though.
Oh, they can.
Yes.
But I don't, and why should I? I don't think I should.
Yeah, in a contest,
I don't think we did for this meeting.
Right, but in a contest,
that's a good point.
Right, a contest is a different beast, and that's why I didn't want to pull us there, because not a whole lot of us need to go there.
That's a good idea.
A contest is a different beast.
Yeah, for meetings, I could see it
yeah.
being okay, but for speech contests, yeah, that could be very distracting.
Yeah, your speech contest host must rehearse this stuff, because you won't have the muscle memory. You won't realize how many monitors you need. I mean, you can't use just a little laptop screen and be the host unless you just have bionic reflexes. So, you know, the contest, it's a couple other moving parts. That's all.
Okay. So Don mentioned, according to the email we received from districts, TI, that is, full body is not required for contests. So that's according to Don Schultze. He just put that in the chat.
Thanks, Don.
We just have to make sure all the judges know, because I had a friend that was in New Mexico that was in a speech contest, and she got disqualified because her elbow went out of the screen. And so the judges there disqualified her.
Wow.
She didn't find out why until later. I mean, it was too late to protest it.
So I guess hopefully you can get back to a point where you know, this is probably good.
Your top of your head is cut off.
Oh, my head, yeah. So you got to make sure your head's down in there too. So I think it's just a matter. I mean, I'm on a laptop, so if you're on a laptop, you got to make sure that that lid is just in the right spot. And I think that's where it's going to take some practice for you to know how far you got to stand away from your computer, or you might have a camera eye or something attached to your monitor or something like that. So make sure.
You also want to elevate that laptop so you're not looking down into the camera.
Right. So yeah. So I'm on a table right here that's only about 3 foot off the ground. You may have to put it, at eye length or something like that. Lift it up. Good suggestion.
I mean, some of us have very nice nostrils, but Sorry, Bill.
All right. Any last questions? I think we're about ready to wrap up. So anybody have any questions? Maybe they can verbalize them. I don't see any more in the chat. Oh, can I get a copy of the chats? Yes.
This is Joe Schwerling.
Yes, Joe, go ahead.
I just got a simple question. How do the names get picked up to show on there? Is that because the system has our email addresses on file, or from the login, from the, like in my case, I got to the meeting by clicking on the URL from the, with the district newsletter email. But I was just wondering, with everybody's names, how does that
get put in there?
Yeah.
Michael, do you want to try that?
I think you've probably used Zoom before, Joe.
Yes, I've used it for a couple of meetings.
Yeah, so the last name you entered in Zoom, it remembers.
Oh, okay.
From your PC, right? Your PC remembers the settings.
Yep.
Okay.
And it is for your PC because, like, I've got multiple computers, and another computer I've got set up with my wife's name on it. So whenever she goes to a Zoom meeting, it has her name on it.
Oh, okay. I figured it was something simple, but I didn't. Like I say, just a simple curiosity question.
Yeah, you can also rename yourself too. There's you just mouse over your photo or your video and hit again those 3 dots. There's the 3 dots button, and you can go down and rename yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So I can rename myself, and then another thing will come up and it'll say DTM. So I'm going to put Scott Holahan DTM. So hopefully that actually made it correct. I don't know. Probably it did. I would hope. I can't see it, but.
And that's very important for contests. That way you know who the contestants are.
Yes, exactly. And you'll be also gladly accepted into a meeting, because if you've got some cryptic message or cryptic note, we don't know who you are. You may not be authenticated. Therefore, we won't let you in. So it's nice to be.
Yeah, I ran across that once this evening, and because this was not a contest, I let the person in, but I would not have let them into a contest.
Yeah.
Nice background, John.
He's been fed.
Is that a badger or a woodchuck? Not sure.
Yes.
Some rodent.
That's right.
That's good. Well, we intend to do these types of webinars, at least for the foreseeable future, on Zoom. We may even do another one next week. So we're going to try to figure out what our plan is, and we're going to look to see. Maybe we'll do a meeting. You know what? Maybe we'll do a mock meeting next week. We were thinking about doing something like that, and we'll see. But so maybe Gene, would you like to kind of close us out here, if you could?
Sure. Let's just give a round of applause to Scott, to John, to Michael, and to the entire team. And if you want to learn how to do the applause, go to reactions at the bottom, click it, and click the little clap.
That's right.
In these challenging times, what an awesome way to continue our learning process. I am so proud to be a part of District 40, your perseverance, your movement through this struggle is exemplary, and I am excited to be a part of this dynamic team. It reminds me of a quote. I used to have it on my wall. Now it's with me. It's from a futurist by the name of Alvin Toffler. He wrote the book Future Shock. And I want to leave this with you because it reminds me of this moment and the times that we're going through. He said, the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read or write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn.
Whoa.
So I'm always asking myself, Gene, and I say, yes, what are you learning today? What are you unlearning? And what are you relearning? Why? Because this is obsolete soon as it was made, right? So we're always learning and growing. Thank you, team. Looking forward to the meeting next week.
Thank you, Gene. I appreciate it. Thank you all for your participation tonight, and please look for another invitation maybe for next week. We'll do this again. Let's make it a habit. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.